So to get started, I just wanted to say that I feel really fortunate. You know, Randy had told me about this, uh, introduced me to George essentially, and I knew nothing except Jim, who really gets all the credit for discovering this incredible connection to our past and really our present with George and his affiliation with the whole Stinson, factory and development. And so Jim, I don't think he's on right now. Jim.
I'm here. Yes, I'm on.
Oh, hi, Jim. Terrific. Thanks for your message and thanks for everything that you've done. And just a cheap plug, we're looking forward to seeing what you come up with for your book and get all of everything about George and down here and get it in writing. That'll be awesome. But I'm not going to spend any more time other than to.
There he is.
Who is that?
Who's that?
That's my cousin.
Oh, cousin Bob.
Oh, no, my other cousin.
Anyway, from the Stinson organization, this is really rather token, but wanted to really express some gratitude to George from the organization, and anyone that has anything to do with excellence in aviation can appreciate those guys and everything they did, especially those of us that have worked on these airplanes and flown these airplanes and compared them to anything else. Stinson is really the standard, and George is an absolute reflection of that. And so anyway, hey George, this is from the Stinson organization, and I'll just read it as much as you're not supposed to do that sort of thing. With the appreciation of everyone who's ever been aloft in a Stinson airplane, thank you, George. And you're going to pronounce your name for me?
Oh boy. That's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Thank you, George, for your dedication to excellence in manufacturing. You made it possible for those airplanes to fly for over 90 years and many more to come. And that's true. I'm about to restore mine for the third time, and they'll just keep flying and flying and flying. And you guys did some incredible work. The standards were so high, people cared, and there's such a contrast in today's world. Yeah. Oh gosh, the original. Wait, now who presented this?
I don't know where that came from. Dan.
Of course, he's got the original logo that's been apparently Kathy has this nearby.
Very nice.
It is, yeah. It's just beautiful. So, how about a story? How about maybe your introduction to George when you got hired, when you first started working? Can you describe when you started working for the Stinson?
I was caddy. I was a very, very good golfer, and I was caddying at a public course named Work Hill out in
Zoom link. So it's not in there.
and I used to hitchhike home to
We'll go get it.
my dad's house where I was living in West Detroit. About, I would guess, 9 miles. And I always just hitchhiked home. And one day at Birch Hill, I didn't get out. This was in the Depression now. I didn't get out. And I spent the entire day just being there.
Oh,
And when I
all right.
left for home. It was about, I'm guessing, 6 o'clock. And I didn't get a hitchhike ride. I walked. And I walked into our neighborhood and made the turn and went up the street that our little house was on. And it was 8 o'clock. And I turned around the corner of one Black's house. That was the house just south of ours. And my dad and mother sitting on the front porch on the steps. And my mother had a piece of yellow paper in her hand. And when I turned the corner and could see the house and mother and dad, she raised this piece of yellow paper and waved it waved for me to hurry. And I did hurry. And when I got to the porch, I read it, and it was an assignment for me to report to work at one of the applications I had laid out in the previous month. And it gave me Stinson Aircraft in Wayne, and it told me to report the following morning.
Wow.
And I remember the following morning getting to Stinson, and there is a crowd of applicants, and I remember a very well-dressed man. He was a personnel director, but I didn't know it at that time. And he had several names, and when the people stepped forward, they identified themselves, and he motioned them over to the side and said, "Wait over there." And then he called my name. I stepped forward, and he said, dressed in my suit because I had applied for an assistant junior engineer job.
Right.
And he looked at my suit, and he said, "What the hell are you dressed like that for?" And I said, "Well, he was reporting for work as a junior engineer." And he said, he looked at his paper and he said, "Junior engineer, hell. This thing says stock chaser, 50 cents an hour. You want it or don't you want it?" Well, I wanted it. I needed a job. I wanted it. And so he said, "Okay, wait over there." And I moved over and waited. And they took me in and signed me in as a stock chaser, 50 cents an hour.
Which I
And
checked is better than minimum wage these
which I
days.
thought was a wonderful piece of equipment of money to get for working in an airplane plant. And I found myself as a hired as a stock chaser. Stock chasers just run around the plant carrying stock from one place to another.
Right.
And so I had a job as a stock chaser.
Getting things built.
And that's how I got started at Stinson Aircraft.
What year was that?
That was I think 1939
Okay.
or thereabouts.
And
So that's how I started work for Stinson Aircraft.
that period of work then was until you went into the Navy? You were working for Stinson that 2 or 3 years perhaps?
Well, when I came back out of the Navy,
Okay.
I arranged to go to work and it's Stinson, and I went to night school
Uh,
at downtown Detroit
okay.
Okay, let's back that up.
for 5 years.
Back that up for a minute. Before the Navy, you worked at Stinson, right?
Phone numbers. That's that.
Yes.
One is
How many years did you work at Stinson before the Navy?
they are the same number.
All of the years from 39 to 44?
Some of yeah, except for the time I was officially in the Navy.
On active duty, yeah. So you went in the Navy then after Pearl Harbor. What was the time proximity post Pearl Harbor?
344.
Pearl Harbor.
Well, we can look. I
Okay.
think he entered in 44 and was separated in 46.
Okay. Okay.
44. February 7th of 44.
Then he went back to work at Stinson's?
Yeah. Or offered to. After you left the Navy, you went back to Stinson
Yes.
for a period of time. Yeah.
But the good stories.
Yeah.
So may I just,
I want you to take over for a minute, Kath.
oh,
I
okay,
gotta put a fire out.
okay. So Dad, you were pardon me, Brian was talking about the quality of work done at Stinson.
Yes.
Tell him the hacksaw story.
Again.
Tell him the story about the hacksaw.
Oh. I was Stinson got an order from the Belgian government for a special airplane arranged with a trailing cable so it could pick packages up from the ground. And it had a special winch in it, and it was significantly complicated. And so it got special attention. And I recall when we the two slot fixers brought the fuselage framework out of the paint shop, and we moved it on down and set it at the beginning of the assembly line. And I recall as we stood there with the freshly painted fuselage frame next to us, in front of us, and standing, looking at and discussing the framework and special points were our chief engineer and our plant manager and our chief inspector.
What was his name?
Al Fontaine was the engineer. Manager was Steve, I think, heck, that I've forgotten. And the chief inspector was a husky guy named Jack Rankin, Rmcine. And Jack had lost several fingers in an accident, and so they called him Three-Fingered Jack. I'll never forget that. And the three of them were standing there next to the airplane frame, talking about it to each other. Now the L5 started out as a how will I call it? The L5 had three versions. One of them had a 290 horsepower Lycoming engine. The second one had a 350 horsepower Wasp. And the fourth one had a 450 horsepower Pratt.
No, that was the Wasp, wasn't it?
A 450 Wasp. I recall Rankin standing there with the others, and he was standing next to one of the main fuselage frames, and he was clicking his finger against that vertical tube, one of the most important tubes in the fuselage. And right in the middle of their discussion, Rankin stopped and said, "Wait a minute." And he clicked his finger against the tube several times. And then he said to me, "Red," my hair was red in those days, "Red, isn't this supposed to be a 450 Wasp?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, And he flicked the tube with his finger 3 or 4 times again. And then he turned to me and he said, Go get me a hacksaw. And I remember the chief engineer said, "Oh my God, no,
Recording in progress.
no." And I remember getting the hacksaw And he looked at us and he said, Al, your job is to design them. And Steve, your job is to make them. And me, my job is to and decide whether they're good or bad. Now,
Stop for just a second. I think somebody just logged on and needs to mute because we're getting feedback. All right. You can continue.
he said, my job is chief inspector. So he said, Al, you've done your job. Steve, you've done your job. Now it's time for me to do my job. And he took the hacksaw, turned it sideways, and chopped a piece out of that major vertical lift carrying tube. And it wasn't the heavy. It was a 290 Lycoming tube. They had built the system out of the wrong tube. And Jack looked at us again and quietly said, this part's scrap. And he reached in his shirt pocket and took out a red scrap tag and filled it out. And I remember him reaching out and running the wire of the scrap tag through the wing anchor fitting and walked off whistling to himself. And I thought to myself, oh, at Stinson could this happen?
Yeah.
Now that is a true story. And they spent $10,000 pointlessly for that incorrect tubing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And how about that?
That's pretty amazing. I don't think Airbus would be doing that. Or
It
a lot
was-
of other manufacturers.
I learned my lesson
Yeah.
there.
So Dad, what about, what's the story about when the L5 contract was finished? And they were missing,
that.
and they were missing a motor. An engine.
Originally, the L5 frame was copied from the model 75 Voyager, the civilian
Oh,
version.
yeah.
And it was a relatively small size vertical fin and rudder.
Oh, that's a difference.
And I remember that they used the 290. I'm sorry, a 75 horsepower. Later on, 105 horsepower.
Yeah.
Lycoming engine. And these engines came in crates about 4 feet square. And we got the contracts and got it into production on it. And I recall we ended up with the government supplied the engines. And I recall how we had a scrapyard south of the plant. And in that scrapyard, they had a string of these boxes, these engine crates. We ended up, we got the contracts, and I remember we ended up with one engine short.
Oh, no.
Imagine that. And they had it all over. And then by this time I was a production schedule programmer. I'd been promoted. I remember my boss, Stinson, calling me in and saying, George, don't wear your suit tomorrow. Wear dungarees. We've lost an engine.
Oh, no.
I said, what? He said, we've closed out this current contract, and we're one engine short. And they have hunted all over the plant, and they don't know where it is. Now, he said, you're an ex-stock station. You know every place there is to hide an engine in this factory. Go find it. And I said, just go find it. He said, just go find it. I don't care what you're doing, who you have to boss around, how you have to boss them, but go find that engine. And I said, okay, Vince, I'll do that. And my good buddy Norm Swanson and I toured the plant, and we covered every bit of that factory. And there just wasn't an engine in that plant. And I thought to myself, if we got the engine, and the records say we did, if we got the engine and we didn't ship it in an airplane, and it's not in the plant, where in the hell could it be? And I had an idea. And I went to the plant engineer and said, Vince says I have to find that engine, and I've been through the plant and it's not in the plant. And he said, well, so what are you going to do? I said, I need 4 men to do the job I give them to do. And Vince said, okay. And he detailed off the 4 men. Now, running directly south from the flight hangar was a scrapyard.
Hmm.
And in that scrapyard were a bunch of these engine crates, about 4 feet square, and running directly south from the flight hangar. And I took the format he gave me and took them out to the plant, to this line of what supposedly were empty scrap engine boxes. And there they were, a line of them. And I said to the guys, fellas, I want you to pick up every box here and move them over 3 feet. And one of them said, that's a crazy thing to do. And the second one said, it sure as hell is. Why should we do that? And I said, never mind, Vince Cernulo wants them moved. So, and one of them said, okay, Charlie, go get that forklift. I said, wait a minute. You can't use a forklift on this job. You have to move each box individually by hand. Start now. They shrugged their shoulders, looked at each other, and picked the first box up and moved it 3 feet west. Then they picked the second one up and moved it 3 feet west. And they had done about, I'm guessing, 12 or 13 boxes when all of a sudden they tried to pick up a box and they couldn't pick this one up because it had something in it. And I was able to have them pull that one out and use the forklift to take it back in and do the paperwork on it. And I reported to Vince that we had found the lost box.
Great. You get take the dungarees off and put your suit back on.
Crazy.
That's a great story. Have you heard that one, Kathy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Ask Jim if there's a particular
Yeah.
story he'd like him to tell.
Hey, Jim, is there something you'd like to revisit with George?
Someone asked me,
Going. Huh? Sit. That's all right. We can go. Still till he's done.
you did ask Stinson.
Okay. All right. So this is the story about the most unusual thing that you did at Stinson.
That's right.
All right, here we go.
The Voyager was model 75.
Uh-huh.
The they simply copied it as 76.
I can listen to it while I drive.
And it was made by a furniture factory, a converted furniture factory in Grand Rapids.
So,
And
wait,
I was
wait a second, Dad.
Jason Doig.
What are you talking about that's made by the furniture factory? This is interesting.
Oh,
Say again.
What is it that's being made by the furniture factory in Grand Rapids?
Oh, the model 75, the Voyager, had a little tail, and the tail was made by a furniture factory,
okay.
a converted furniture factory in Grand Rapids. And I recall that they made the first model 76, the Voyager,
Uh-huh.
on the same lines as the tail of the 75. And I was chasing stock for a flight test at that time. And I remember the day our chief test pilot, Al Schramm, flew the spin tests on the Model 76. And to do that, he took off and climbed to about 10,000 feet over there was a river, the Huron River, which ran northwest to southeast, south of the plant. And I recall getting it all set with this Model 75, a Model 76 rather, and he flew it to 10,000 feet over the Huron River near Ann Arbor, and kicked it over and did his first test with the airplane spinning to the right. And everything worked fine. And he pulled out at 2,500 feet above the river and climbed back up to do the same spin test to the left. Now I must digress and explain that the airplane had a parachute door so arranged that there was a wire handle, and the pilot could reach out, grab the handle and pull it, and the door would fall off. And he and the observer thereby could get out of the airplane. Well, he took the airplane up to 10,000. Well, I didn't know all this at the time, but he took it up to 10,000 a second time and kicked it over and put it in a right-hand spin.
Right or left?
A left-hand spin. Now, bear in mind, he's over a river, a pretty good sized river, and the river is down in a sort of a gorge. He kicked the airplane over. So it started spinning to the left and tried to turn it on, and it wouldn't stop spinning. And he spun and spun and spun, all to no avail. And so, in desperation, he reached over, grabbed the spin released handle, and pulled. The handle pulled the key out of the door, and the door came loose, and if you visualize it, you see the airplane spinning to the left, and the door came off. And as the airplane turned to the left, it plastered the falling door into the fabric of the fuselage. And it tore the fabric all along the fuselage. And
Just
got to the end. And jammed into
You want to
thing.
need to stop at Supplies Plus at Middle Elkton 7.
Vertical stabilizer
Okay.
and stuck there. And the airplane spun down and spun down and spun down and spun down. And finally, in desperation, he
Oh,
All right. So you had gotten to the point where the door had come off
yeah,
and had gone all the way back. And now what's happening to the tail?
and it stuck in it broke loose from the tail.
okay.
And the airplane straightened out into a straight dive. It had broken out, broken the spin. And he leveled out, and he was 200 feet
Wow.
above the river,
Yeah.
below the canyon. And I remember I was out there at the edge of the airport watching for him, and I saw the airplane come limping back towards the airport, and it shot a landing. And I remember Al pulled it up, stopped it, stopped the engine, it collapsed.
I bet.
Yeah. He wrote a book about it eventually. Now, and so it was that the increased the size of the vertical tail by starting at another full 18 inches
Yeah.
farther forward than it had been. And all Stinson airplanes, Stinson Model 76s from then on had that long tail.
Yeah.
I told this story to a fellow who lived near there, lived in where we are now. I told him about it. He has a 77 that has the 76 that has that scoop tail. And all when they went into factory production on civilian airplanes, they just continued to use the tool.
This side or that side of 7 Mile? This side.
How about that?
That's quite a story.
Should we open it up for some questions?
Yeah. First of all, anyone have any, Jim, did you have another question or was that where you were gonna go?
No, I don't have any questions to ask. We'll let other people ask questions.
Okay, anyone else? Question?
Hello.
Hello, who's speaking?
Yes, this is Uncle George's niece
Oh,
with
hi.
his whole family here. We're all joining. See us all. We're having a little party today. We want to congratulate him on his plaque with you guys, and we're so proud of him. So you
Awesome.
guys have a good meeting, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Love you, Uncle George.
What
It's here. Kathy, is
Yeah,
that?
he can't. It was Judy, my cousin,
Yeah.
your niece, congratulating you. She's right there. Wait,
Hi, Judy.
Hi, sweetie. Love ya.
And I'm so glad to hear from you. And I
But
hope
we love you. I enjoyed your stories.
you're enjoying them, huh?
I am. I never heard these stories before.
You never stood still long enough to hear.
That's right. We were all too busy, but we love you and you have a good afternoon, okay?
I thank you for your call.
Okay. Love you, honey. Bye-bye.
All right.
You're finding this interesting?
Heck yeah, are you kidding? Stay here all day.
they would like to see those photos of him,
Which of,
of his most recent flying.
oh my gosh.
This is
right.
here. Right here.
Why don't you give some background? Yeah.
So
Turn in
if you are interested, Dad decided when he was 97 years old that he needed to fly one more time. And then the following year, when
Where?
Sam and Sherry Tabor invited us to Wisconsin, met up with Jim Gray there, Dad got to fly also. So I have some photos of that if people are interested, and if somebody would give me permission to share a screen. Jody, can you do that?
I am not seeing it on my end. I'm not officially the host on this. Will Ware is our webmaster that set it up.
Okay. If he,
And I know he stepped away for just a moment, but he should be back.
okay. Questions, anyone?
I have a question.
Hi, Brad.
Hi. So on the SR 7, 8, 9, 10, and V77 series, they used
Hold on a
hollow.
second, Brad. Can you hear Brad? He's asking you a question.
Thing flew out. Yeah.
Can you lean in and listen?
Can I make one comment?
Sure.
The gentleman that's in the car with your phone, can you please mute that? We're getting your
Yeah.
feedback. Sorry.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, Brad, try it again.
So on the Stinson SR 7, 8, 9, 10, and V77 series, they used hollow square aluminum tubing to build up the ribs. Those ribs were riveted together with spun rivets. Do you know how they spun those rivets? What equipment did they use to spin those rivets on those ribs?
So I'm familiar with this, George. And you may not be unless you work in production in the factory, but all the gull wings had that square tubing right on the ribs.
Yeah.
And they're connected with dry rivets, and they spun I can't remember, it's almost like a washer, but
No, they actually spun heads on the ends of the rivets, but they also used a little keeper on some of them. But the question is, how did they spin those rivets? What equipment or tools did they use to create those heads on the other end of the rivet?
Do you have any idea how they spun the rivets when they built up the wing ribs on the
when they built
on most of the gull wings and the V77, all the gull wings, they spun rivets in the square aluminum tubing on the wing. And nobody knows how those rivets were spun. If some sort of I suppose people are using drill bits of sorts, but he's just wondering about the production of those, how they might, if you know.
Yeah, how did they form the rivet head on the other side of those rivets in the ribs for the wings of the gull wings? Okay, so it's still going to be a mystery.
Yeah, those are soft rivets, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah. They probably. I wouldn't doubt if each production guy had his own. They had a standard, I'm sure. That's a great question.
I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
So how is it that Stinson wound up using thermos bottles for rate of climb instrument compensators?
He's talking about, this is stuff I don't think anyone in the room is familiar. Well, some of us aren't. On a rate of climb. So describe that in which airframes, do you know?
Well, I know it was probably used in the SR5 all the way up through probably the SR10 until the rate of climbs eliminated the external compensator and made the housing of the instrument itself the compensator.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Did you actually show us one?
Yes.
Dad?
So this is a number 6.5 thermos bottle from the Thermos, registered trademark Thermos brand, straight out of the sporting goods store or the hardware store. And this is behind the instrument panel, attached to the longeron just below the co-pilot's window. And it had copper tubing from here, went to the back of the rate of climb instrument.
So do you know anything about those thermos bottles used for rate of climb?
Oh,
darn.
So I found mine behind the instrument panel of my 1936 SR8.
Interesting. Those didn't make it to the 1819s, did they? I don't. Anyway, George isn't familiar with that. I know I'm sure not.
So did somebody have a question he could answer?
Yeah, how about
I always said to my students, when I didn't know the answer to a question, I'd say, how about asking one I know the answer to?
oh gosh.
Where were you when the war ended?
I was still on the ship on the 354, and we were at anchor in the shipyard, the naval shipyard west of Manila. And I have a copy somewhere.
I don't know if this camera turns things backwards. Is that legible?
Yes. Yeah. we
Okay.
can see it.
So let me bring it up a little bit. Authentication report. War is officially over. Stop. So he's got this telegram, and he and his crew members signed it.
Wow.
I think I need to be on Roadshow. Yeah.
4 million.
Yeah.
Did you receive a package?
Oh, I did. And by the way, George, you get to wear a Stinson hat. Okay, where's the?
Oh my.
Well,
Okay. All right, there's the Stinson logo. Go ahead.
Isn't that?
There you go.
oh, that,
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, we got a T-shirt too. We might have to. I don't know. He
Oh
said a
boy.
medium, but we'll see.
Better
yeah, he's
Yeah.
usually a large.
Yeah,
go
yeah,
with it.
that's a long.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, the logo's beautiful. Thanks, Jody. Well,
Yeah. I don't know if George could hear, but if he can, George, on behalf of the International Stinson Club, we truly appreciate this opportunity to be able to hear your stories and connect with somebody that had a hand in on some of the planes we love so much today and fly. Thank you so much, Kathy. Thank you for helping, and Brian and Jim and Randy. Everybody just come together to put this on, and this is really a treat here to hear these stories firsthand about the Stinson company. So,
well put, Jody. Thank you. Nice. Everybody says thank you, George.
Well, this has been a marvelous experience for me, and living some of those old happenings a second time is it turned out to be a lot of fun. I do remember that we were at that shipyard, and for the life of me, Bataan shipyard. I can remember when I became commanding officer, the morning I became the commanding officer of the LSM 354. All the crew wondered how Mr. Doig would make out as a commanding officer. He was a damn good engineer, but not a good commanding. They didn't know how he was as a commanding officer.
Right.
And I wondered how I should do it and how I should conduct myself and what I should do. And I read this one last story. The ship was anchored in a berth, an anchor station at Bataan shipyard. And I remember we had a Glenn Miller movie,
All right. Yeah.
Orchestra Wives, and we were all excited about seeing it that night. And about 4 o'clock, we received orders from Island Command to go alongside a tanker that evening and fuel up for the trip back to Pearl Harbor. And here we were, new captain, new commanding officer.
Cancel the movie.
What was I going to do? And so I had an idea. And I called my chief commanding officer, my chief,
Command chief.
and I said, Chief, I want you to get 4 of those guys down on the stern winch, because we had a big stern winch so we could pull off the beach after we'd hit the beach.
Yeah.
I said, get 4 of them down there and make like you're working like hell on the engine, the winch engine. I then send one of them back up to me. And he said, yes, Mr. Doig. And he got us four guys down there, and they got one over the side to act like he was working on the cable, of the anchor cable. And then he sent one of the guys back up to me. And I sent a message to Island Command, and I said, we're having trouble with the stern winch. Could we delay our fuels till tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock? And Island Command didn't care. And it said affirmative. And so we secured all the stuff and had dinner. And
That movie.
watched the Glenn Miller movie. And went over the next morning over to the tanker.
All right. How many troops aboard that boat? About
56
enlisted.
men and 5 officers,
Okay.
plus the the commander and 4 guys on his staff.
Oh, it was a flagship.
Right?
Was that the flagship?
We were one of the flotilla flagships.
Yeah.
Flotilla 13.
Okay. That's a great story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I wish I could say I did so well on my
Yeah.
department head tours.
All right. I think people have been, well, enchanted and yet patient. So
Oh,
Jody, I think we will log off. And he is looking at the plaque again. Very appreciative. Thank you so much.
Kathy,
Thanks,
this has been our honor. So thank you and your dad for everything and putting this together. This has truly been a treat.
And thanks, Jim. And people send any questions to Jim and we'll see if we can get some answers. You know how it is as you get a little older, some of you might, that, an hour from now, the answer will come to you. So he's working on those rivets.
Thank you.
George.
Thank you. Yes, that's gorgeous.
That's beautiful. Now I got to find another place to put it.
Kathy, I might add one thing. Oh, I think she's gone. We had at one time 23 on here.
That's impressive.
That's good participation.
Yeah, we had
Hey,
20.
Jody, somebody called my name and I had just turned off the other computer.
Kathy, I was just making mention.
Somehow I don't have sound. Hold on.
Well, I turned the speakers down.
I got speaker is off. The speaker is actually,
You can just manually.
no, no.
Can you hear now?
Oh, which button?
The one that's
Oh, really?
there.
Oh,
Should be back.
okay.
Maybe the.
No. Oh, gosh. Not my machine, so I don't know what it, doesn't it look like it's off? All
We can
right.
hear you, Kathy.
Okay, Jody, yeah, but I couldn't hear you.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
I just
Now.
wanted to mention that at one time we had 23 that was in attendance on this. And one of our members is from England and he was on as well. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah. Yes.
Well, Dad is from England too. So
That's right.
that's terrific. Great.
That's right.
And I saw another one of our friends who I think, how long did Mike own his L5? Like, I don't know. It was a very short period of time until his mother told him he had to get it out of the garage. So he was there.
I'm still here.
He's still there. Oh, there he is. And Charmaine. Hi, guys.
Congratulations,
All right.
George. Yeah, no, it was a
Okay.
very short time. It was college students shouldn't buy airplanes that need work.
That's Mike. See Mike, remember?
Yeah.
Mike and Charmaine. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Kathy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.